Is there anything these guys can't do? Well, yeah, a lot actually. Like eating ice cream without getting it in their beard. This week, the guys talked to Adam Fowler from the award-winning blog AdamFowlerIT.com about Cryptolockers, new container technology for deploying software to enterprises, how DevOps bridge the gap between IT pro and developers, and then it is bonus week for jokes. Finding your equilibrium of black bears and black holes without losing our balance.
And welcome to another episode of The Day in the Pain, the show that is up to date on all our vaccinations and creates cardboard computers from recycled milk crates. This week we actually have a really exciting guest, Joel, and I'll introduce him in just a moment, but I thought I actually have some news this week, and I thought I'll just share it before you even get to say anything. So now, shut up. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking. I figured if I talk through the whole show, you won't have any chance of actually getting to say anything. Is that going to work? Anyway, So once a year, I co-organise with a bunch of other people. There's about 10 of us, 8 or 10 of us, an event in Melbourne called DDD Melbourne. And we, again, back this year, and we finally got a date. And I thought that was very exciting. So I thought I'd share that on the 12th of August, we'll again have DDD Melbourne. I don't know if I've spoken to you about this before, John, the actual event, what it is, but it's all about community. And it's essentially the attendees that decide on the agenda. So if you buy a ticket for this event, you can then vote on all the submissions, all the talks that's been submitted, and then the highest X number of talks, whatever many we need, are the ones that are going to form the agenda, which is kind of a interesting way of creating a conference that I haven't seen anywhere else except for other DDD events.
That's self-organizing. That's sort of the highest state of organizational development.
I wouldn't say it's self-organizing. It's we still have to set up a voting system, which you normally don't have. We have to make sure people don't vote 8 times on the same talk, and there's still a few things we need to figure out. But this is the 8th year that we're doing it, so I think we're kind of getting to a point where we know what we're doing. Although this year, and this is kind of exciting, we're going to increase the numbers so we will have 500 people. And this is probably the biggest we've ever been in terms of numbers. So there will be a whole lot more initiatives around, all sorts of things. I've got all these plans and ideas of what we can use the space for, the venue that we have. But it's back and it'll be awesome.
Well, that sounds like fun. And you have a busy June too, as well, right? I thought I saw something. No. You're like be gone for half the month or 3/4 of the month.
Now that you mention it, yeah, I do. I go on the 5th of June. I'm traveling to Stockholm, where DevSum is on, which is a really cool .NET event, mainly .NET, which is on in Stockholm for 3 days. And I'm doing a workshop one day, and I'm doing a talk the other day. And then I'm going to have a look at Stockholm, obviously, because it's kind of my neck of the woods. I go from there, I go to NDC in Oslo for a week, where I do a couple of presentations. I do 6 Pluralsight recordings for some new courses. And then I go to Denmark, where I do a bunch of workshops and user group talks and various things. And I can't even remember now. And then I have some holiday with the family in Holland and France and UK. So, yeah, nice. I'm going to be gone for almost 2 months.
Well, I'll miss you.
No, you won't.
That's true. That's a lie.
Yeah. Well, I'm mainly saying that because I'll still be able to record. I'll bring my microphone. Don't worry.
The internet will find you.
Exactly. So that's my bit of news. What's happening in your neck of the woods? Are you suddenly getting some summer? Is it up to like 42 degrees Fahrenheit?
Actually, we have people swim in, when it's cold. But actually, this is the first day that it got to 60 Fahrenheit, which is not terribly
15.
Unusual this time of the year, but it's just been outrageously beautiful the last couple of days, and it makes all the rain and nastiness in the winter worthwhile. I did, by the way, last week I got as close to build as I'll ever get, likely. I had to take a kid to Seattle for an appointment, and I was literally within, a half a mile of the build conference or so, but obviously wasn't there for that purpose. But it was interesting how keyed in even the people driving the taxis and the folks were aware of what was going on. So I thought it was kind of interesting. And I think build, it seems like, was a little different this year, at least from what I hear from folks.
I like the way you said it. The closest I'll ever come, like they had a leash on you or something
right.
was holding you back.
Well, yeah,
no,
it's not
that's
like,
close enough, Joel.
yeah.
Stay back.
I was suggesting I was going to go just bust in just to see what was going on, but then someone said, well, there really is, it's kind of steep to, expensive to get in there, and they might frown on that. And I'm like, well, yeah, probably. But if I take my kid, they're not going to throw me and a kid out,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Just say, I need to use the bathroom, quick. He's about to.
That's.
I don't know.
That was my fun for the week was heading down there for literally for an overnight and a day and back the same day or the next day. So
yeah, right. It's kind of
really
like I went to. I don't think we've covered this actually. Are we the last week? Because it's been a couple of weeks since we recorded, and last week I bought a car. Hey.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Have you got it running, like out on the road?
Well, it's not registered yet. So I bought an old BMW, an E23 for the nerds, which is a 1983 735i, which is this beautiful, huge BMW. It's gorgeous. And
it's a brick.
The lady, well, no, it still moves pretty all right. It's the big engine of the time, so it still moves all right. But it's just in such a good condition, and the lady we got it from, it's like she was the custodian for it, and now we're the custodians. Like, that's kind of how I feel about it, and so I'm going to take good care of it. But we did find out what was wrong with it. There was smoke coming out of the engine, which is never a good sign. You got to keep the white smoke inside the engine, don't let it out. And it's a seal apparently between the engine and the transmission, so we do have to take the engine out, which would be good fun. But that's it. Old cars. Anyway, that was my bit of car news as well. I think we should introduce our guest, John. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Who is he?
I thought you knew.
No, I have no idea.
Oh crap. I'll just make it up.
Some chap from down under.
Some chap. No, it's he's not too far away from me. It's only about an hour and a half flight, which is very close in Australia. We have Adam Fowler on the line, and Adam is, it says he's an IT operations manager. I know Adam from the MVP world at Microsoft because he's a fellow MVP, but he is in cloud and data center management where I am on the Windows platform. And he's worked in IT for over 15 years, which I'm guessing is mainly around the IT ops part of the world, which we'll get to what that is. But essentially it is systems, infrastructure, and operational services. He also runs a really successful blog on adamfowlerit.com, which won an award, Adam. Is that right?
It did, and hello, Lars and Joel. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Recently I entered in a little competition that Netrix was running, and managed to win a category in it. So that was quite a nice little nod from them.
I thought it was really cool because you never hear about that. You never hear about, everybody has a blog, right? Every man and his dog has a blog, except Joel. And you just never hear about awards or anything for them. So I thought that was really cool.
No, and I guess for me, the even better part of it is it's hopefully leaning towards potentially a sponsorship deal for the blog as well. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah, that's cool. So what does your blog revolve around?
Well, I sort of started it several years ago out of the Australian Tech Ed conference, probably back in 2009. There's a few different people writing a sort of centralized blog for it, and I started, writing bits and pieces. It was a bit of incentive to, write something and contribute. A few articles went pretty well, so I ended up, moving off to my own blog, and it's sort of just grown from there. The sort of content I write about, the content I write about normally, I try and relate it. That's right. Yeah, I relate to what sort of things I'm doing at work often, or if I'm, something just comes out of interest, or something strange is going on Twitter that piques my interest, I might write my own opinions down. But usually I use it as a sort of self-documenting method. So if I have to look up something and I can't easily find it on Google or Bing, I will then end up blogging it myself. Yeah, and that seems to work pretty well.
Do you just Google yourself?
Well, it's funny how many times you go, oh, what's this problem? And you end up finding your own article. You go, oh yeah, I wrote about that. That's right.
Teflon brain. Nothing
Exactly.
sticks. No, that's it, and I don't know if many of our listeners actually do have a blog. I know a couple certainly do, and I have a blog as well, which is I kind of use it the same way. I write down thoughts and ideas about what I think is cool at the time, and then some of it is because I want to remember it and actually have a reference to it as well. So that's probably a good approach to have to it. And really, blog is a term that's a bit overused, isn't it? It's become just another word for having a website, where you create content on. So I thought we should probably talk about what you do, Adam, because the reason we kind of have you on the show is that we've had guests that's been more either developer-centric or been kind of focused to some extent on the developer world and kind of how apps and software and whatnot is used. And you're really kind of the other side of things where you make the software run properly, as in... Is it fair to say that if you do your job really, really well, no one knows you're there?
Yes, that's something I think I tweeted out a few days ago from the old Futurama.
Oh, you did?
Quote.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's there's obviously, that's not 100% true, but a large percentage of the job is making sure things run well, proactive instead of reactive to issues. And just trying to improve things generally wherever you can make improvements. Yeah,
because there's nothing more annoying than as a developer or any kind of job, I guess, is you sit there and then stuff either you can't connect to something or you can't get this file you need or your computer's slow or any of these sort of more infrastructure-related issues that you just want it to work, right? You don't care how it works, you just want it to work. And that's where... it becomes really important having somebody to understand how all this kind of relates to each other.
Well, exactly. And you can think about, the very recent disaster of WannaCrypt. It might have been a developer that created the problem, but it was up to the IT pros to do proper patching and fix the problem before it actually, caused the worldwide problems it did.
So what's WannaCrypt? Can you explain what that was? What happened?
Oh, yes. So that was the very recent sort of worm-type virus that was using some Windows exploits that were released a few months ago. And there was hospitals in the UK that were shut down because their computers were locked. It's a newer variant of the Cryptolocker viruses that have been going around lately. But yeah, they've used a few exploits, and I think it was to do with the SMB1 exploits that they were trying to self-replicate across. So it went crazy, and yeah.
Yeah, so essentially people's computers were locked, right? They installed some software. I'm not even sure how it got onto the computer. You're saying via the SMB feature, and people couldn't use their computers. So then a screen came up and said, hey, if you want to use your computer, you got to pay some Bitcoin to this Bitcoin address, essentially.
That's right, and it was 300 Bitcoin, I believe, so it's not like it was a huge amount, but if you've got thousands of computers, then yeah, it adds up. And of course, if anyone that hasn't read about this, it's quite interesting. The guy that ended up stopping this virus in its tracks, they were looking through the code of it, and they found that there was a really long garbled website that the virus would check for. If the website didn't respond, it would continue and start doing its crypto locking. If it got a response from the website, though, it would just stop in its tracks. So the guy seeing that in the code decided, I'll just register the website. And yeah, completely stopped it worldwide for a while.
It's so random, isn't it? Why would you even have that in there? Why would you have... Because we're talking, it was 100 random characters or something, dot something.
Yeah, I think it was the top row of the keyboard they decided someone had mashed on for a while to create this domain name.
That's very technical.
One theory I read was it was, if you were using your local host's file in Windows, you could actually point that somewhere, and then they could sandbox and test it before letting it loose.
Ah, right. Okay, so putting this into perspective, into context, what did you do at your? Because you worked at a relatively large company, is that right? Where you're kind of running the IT department.
Australia-wise, it's a large company. If you ask what a large company in the US was, it'll probably be thousands of staff, but a couple of hundred.
Yep.
So once the news reports come out, that's when you start immediately looking at what the KB articles from Microsoft were and making sure your WSUS is reporting that everything's patched, and if it's not, you quickly patches everything that you can.
Joel, is your WSUS patched?
I had some with my rice and beef tonight for dinner, and it was excellent. Adam, I did have
Joel's
a question.
brain kind of switching off.
Yeah, I did have I was listening. I had a couple of questions for you. One, it sounds like you're in a similar sized company than as the one that I work for, maybe a different setup. But I was curious because I work pretty closely with the IT folks, and they send out a series of emails to staff sort of describing what to do, and then later I heard some people going, one person telling another person, well, if you get an email like that, you need to forward it to IT, which I thought was really interesting because I thought, well, no, really what you should do is not do anything, and you should let IT know.
I think so. I think that's probably the good advice.
but I was curious what your response was. And then my second question is, so one of the things that's always been interesting to me is how exactly does your company measure success in your department? So what is it that they look to define that you are doing a good job or the system is working as it's supposed to?
Okay, I'll answer the first question, then you might have to remind me what the second one was again, because I would have forgotten it by then. So if you're not sure, do nothing. That's the best thing. Forwarding an email in a company where you've got control of a lot of things, it's not too bad. Usually you haven't got things to automatically load pictures from unknown sources in, for Microsoft Outlook, so there's a low risk. And it is easier for IT to actually look at the email for help desk, to look at the email and start to work out if it's legitimate or not, and go from there. And it also depends how well set up your company is against threats, for emails coming in, for you clicking bad links. There's multiple layers where you can protect yourself. So it's one of those things that horses for courses, but from an end user point of view, if you're not sure, just call first.
Yeah. And so when this virus came out, what was your response? I mean, without getting into proprietary things with your company, how did you all respond to it?
Well, I guess the first thing is, which is part of my operations skills, communication. Talk amongst the team to make sure everyone is understanding what's going on and what the risks are. It doesn't help if one person goes down a certain line and, does all this great work where there was one other thing they should have done at the start, or someone else was across maybe a new server that was built that the other person's not aware of, or, communication, number one. So really from there, it's working out what your plan is. Luckily for a Microsoft patch, it's, again, making sure you've actually already released the patch, and if not, get it out there and then manage the clients, check your reports, force reboots if required. Yeah, it's for patch management. It's something that every IT company should be doing anyway. Or it's not every IT company, every company. And even for home users. Luckily for this one, it was just, if you haven't run Windows Update, just make sure you're running it and you haven't disabled it.
And that would be irrespective if you're using virtual machines or...
Yeah, exactly. A virtual machine, unless it's got no network card virtually attached to it, can still talk out like any other device.
Yeah. So and then the second part was, how exactly are you measured for? I mean, to know whether or not you're doing your job. Is it uptime? Is it the number of tickets you handle? I mean, how how do they judge you?
Well, the first answer for operations is, are you getting complaints or not? If you're getting complaints, depends on the complaint, but less complaints usually means you're doing more things right. You can't avoid complaints overall because sometimes people have different expectations to what you can deliver. Other metrics we normally use are, ticket count. How many jobs do we have open? If you've got more than what you normally have, then you've probably got people waiting longer and having a worse experience.
So, and you manage all that online as far as the back and forth with your end users or clients.
Yeah, we have a ticketing system. So if someone calls up, because we don't have a particularly formal process, if someone calls and we fix it, then we won't record that because we're only answering to ourselves and the company itself. And as long as the company's happy with what we do, then there's no point spending time documenting things when you could be doing more fixing. And yeah, beyond that, you use ticketing system to record what goes backwards and forwards, and yeah.
You make it sound so pleasant.
Once you hit several years in it, you get past the anxiety of an outage.
You don't feed the anxiety of your end users when they come pounding on the door.
Oh no, and that's sort of like one of the worst things you can do, because if they talk to you and you seem panicked, then they know something is up that's potentially out of your control.
Yeah. Is it your experience that the first thing that you have them do is restart the device?
Well, everyone does like to quote the IT crowd, of course.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad answer, but it's a depends. Like most of the things I'll say, it'll be a depends.
Yeah.
If it's a once-off thing, sure, reboot. If that fixes it, awesome, great. Who knows or cares? If it's an ongoing thing, you can't just tell people to reboot. And by ongoing, I mean more than twice. Well, IT pros and IT devs have different views on these things, but
this is so true. I am all right. So I guess we kind of established what IT Pro in this sense is in terms of managing servers, managing customer requests, managing support, managing. Do you also buy hardware and set up hardware and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we do. I mean, on the infrastructure side, you would still class that as IT Pro, so buying your servers and your storage and all that.
Okay.
As well as the desktop layer, so looking at your laptops and your desktops and switches and any pretty much anything physical comes into the IT Pro side of things.
Okay, so because I wanted to kind of ask then that there's a new term, relatively new, called DevOps, developer operation. I'm not even sure what it is exactly. Is that something that relates to what you do, and how does DevOps actually fit in between developers and IT Pro operations?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure who coined the DevOps term. I'm sure if I read Wikipedia for a minute, I'd work it out. But it is primarily designed around making dev people and operations people work together. A lot of people initially sort of had the view of thinking, you just abandon ops and you make devs do the ops work. But it's more of both sides being aware of each other. And, as you have known from history, Lars, IT pros and devs used to not get along too well.
Yeah, which I always thought was interesting because, I mean, in my experience, that was never the case. I used to work for a relatively large company in Australia, and the guys that were maintaining my hardware, I had a great relationship with because, that was just the nature of the company. This whole notion of IT pro and dev sort of head to head, I didn't really hear about until I started speaking a lot. And then someone would say, it's a developer conference, or it's an IT pro conference, and I went, there's a difference. So to me, that kind of came in from the side, but it definitely is, historically something that people have struggled with. And I don't know if that's why someone came up with DevOps to kind of bridge that gap and actually make it a bit more approachable for both sides.
Yeah, I believe so. And it makes sense. I mean, and I've had similar experiences. I've never had issues with any dev person I've worked with, but I could see that if you had a dev group and an ops group that weren't talking, or one group was maybe not as good as their job as the other side, there would be a lot of conflict and suffering from both sides because of that.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at Wikipedia here. Yeah, shut up, Joel. And there's what's called a DevOps toolchain, and it's just the areas that DevOps actually culturally fit into. And it's coding, it's building, so continuous integration and building your software. It's testing, it's packaging it, and I think that's where the ops comes in, is that it actually is packaging and release as well of this software, and then also configuring it and monitoring it. So I think DevOps still has very much to do with the software part of it, but it seems like they're kind of touching on the server side because they're releasing and configuring and monitoring it. So perhaps that kind of explains it.
Yeah, I also think there's a component in the States, and I couldn't really speak to overseas very much, but software as a service and all these businesses springing up over the past, say, 10 years, because they are developing software, a product, and then building a company sort of around that. You get a push from that end as those companies get bigger to take the guy who built the thing and then have that guy or gal be in a position where they are then selling the thing and maintaining the thing, the product. And then from the opposite end, you have larger companies that are typically, will buy the software as a package and then have it serviced by a third party, starting to bring development in. And I think both those things are pushing, I don't know that it needs to be called something, but there's a demand for people that can meet that combination of skills, I suppose.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it's quite hard to find someone that is good at either dev or ops, but can then handle other areas. A lot of people have either previously been or just like to be pigeonholed in what they do and don't want to worry about the rest.
Yeah, it's kind of like having a great designer that's also really great at coding front end JavaScript and HTML. It's kind of, they're related, but you generally have people that are good at one of the things, not both. So it is a bit of a expert position, I guess.
So Adam, you've been in this or at this for I think you said like 15 years or something like that, and I'm curious, sort of how you've seen things change in your role, and if you where you see things going, if DevOps is the future, or what do you think the future looks like for you in your current role?
Yeah, well, I think right now it's definitely a really big time of change, which has probably been happening for the last couple of years and will continue to happen for the next 4 to 5 years. Part of that, I guess, tying into the DevOps side of things, is looking at containers. Not that I'm heavily involved in it myself, but I understand the philosophy behind it and why people are, pushing containers. I'll summarize, but I'm sure someone will pick.
Containers?
I was going to say, I'm sure someone will pick at me saying I got it not quite right, but it's the idea of...
We don't care about those people.
Oh, good. Well, next episode you can just say, Adam got all that wrong, this is what it actually is. But it's the idea of, normally you would just package an application, but you're packaging it at a bigger layer. So you would package everything that includes all the prerequisites and all the requirements. So, if you need a version of .NET, that's part of that... bigger piece that you then devs can play with and then pass on to ops to deploy. So instead of doing a package that's tested on a test environment and then there's a bunch of differences when you move it across, the container contains everything that is required for the application to work. So you pass that off and you just load your container and away you go. It's the exact same experience you get in test and live because you're getting rid of all those things that can change between.
It's a really easy way of versioning things as well, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I don't know much about containers, to be honest. It's certainly not an area I've explored very much. But it does seem to be a way of standardizing how you deploy software. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. And, I look forward to the day that, I'm dealing with a vendor and they actually deliver their program as, in this way. Instead of, having days of consulting and setting up, make sure you got the right hardware, all the prerequisites, trying to scope everything out. You shouldn't need to do that. It's just, here you go. Load this and see how you go with it.
Yeah, it's a way of making sure that your software will always run and always run the same way, regardless of what server environment or whatever it is you're putting it into. Because, as you said exactly, Adam, all of the prerequisites are part of the delivery. They're part of this container. And that also means that if you're upgrading your software to a different version, you can then include other dependencies in the new container without having to get the customer to install 8 different things before they can actually use your program.
Exactly. Or even, one registry setting that's almost unrelated to the products, but it somehow cares about that setting that, causes you days of troubleshooting with support, trying to work out why something doesn't work.
So is this something you are using currently, or
No,
are you
not at
looking
all. And
getting into it?
Yeah, not at all. And, part of that's going to be driven by vendors actually delivering things in that way. I think Windows Server 2016 is the first Windows Server OS to support containers, so it's still early days.
Yeah, I believe that's true. Yep.
But yeah,
it's been out on Linux for a while, but yeah, Windows 2016.
Yeah, so it'll take quite a while for the industry to catch up, but to me it makes sense. I can't see any reason why you wouldn't do this. If anyone knows, I'd be keen to hear.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some pitfalls and things that won't work properly, but I definitely think it's the right way to go as well.
Well, that sounds like a challenge to people listening. Why don't you send us a note on one of our Twitter handles or to Adam on his and say, hey, you know what, this is why it's not right or it won't work.
Oh, exactly. And,
please comment on the website as well.
Yeah, we're not saying we're experts by any stretch. It's just, looking at what the future may hold. So, yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess the other part of Joel's question there, IT, it's still cloud driven. We're still in a transition phase for on-prem to cloud. That doesn't mean everyone will just go cloud, but it will become a more and more hybrid world. And the changeover of that on-prem to hybrid will be changing everyone's IT world.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same in the dev world as well. The changes are massive all the time, and it's a real struggle just to keep up. And I imagine for companies, if you have a couple of hundred people as you do, it's not easier because people don't like change, right? And you're gonna kind of have to spoon feed them a bit this new things that will actually make their life easier, but it'll take a little while before it gets to that point. So yeah, it's not easy.
Well, yeah, this is where change is really difficult to manage because you can't change for the sake of change. There may be good components to a change, like, for example, upgrading Windows 7 to Windows 10. There's a lot of benefits, but for an end user, what will they actually get out of it that will either make them more efficient, get them to make more money for the company, or improve their experience? And those can be quite hard things to answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
That's an excellent that's an excellent point. As an end user, coming from Windows 7 at work to Windows 10 at home, using 3 different versions of Outlook, and also Office and 2 different versions of Excel in various environments, it's really can be sort of exacerbating at times. It's like, what's going on here? It's funny, I'm always touching the screen of my monitor at work, and it makes me laugh every time because, of course, it's not touchscreen.
Oh, and everyone does that. Don't worry about that.
Oh, man.
This is so true. Now,
well, I had another question for you.
Yeah. All right, go on, Joel.
One more question. I was, one thing I'm always curious about is what people do for fun. It looks like, I mean, you have a blog, and I know you're on Facebook, and you share a lot of really cool stuff. But I'm curious if you have any little side projects or fun things or stuff that you do at work that is sort of to keep your mind interested that you'd want to share with us. And if not, that's fine too. I know you got a little kid, so I'm sure your day is full.
Yes, my son, definitely keeps me busy during the waking hours. But beyond that, of course, I've got my writing, which is done beyond work. So that's quite interesting because beyond writing for my blog, I also write for other publications, so that keeps me busy. Also, I guess one of my pastimes is rather than computer games, I'm quite into board games.
That is really cool because, well, I have a cousin that works for Microsoft that actually designs board games just as a hobby.
Wow,
which
yeah.
I always thought, so you're the second person I know.
Well, I definitely don't design them, but Kickstarter's almost driven on board games that are on there now.
Yeah, he actually had one at a time. He tried one on Kickstarter, but it didn't meet his goals. So I'm not suggesting that he was successful at it.
Hey, if you enjoy it, that's the main thing. That's what.
I used to play D&D. I loved D&D when I was a kid. But,
yeah, I did that too.
And Scrabble now is probably the only board game that I ever really play.
That's because you're really old, Joel.
I know.
And that's what you see. I never played D&D as a kid. I played a lot of computer games that were in the D&D style, but I never actually played D&D itself.
There's a lot of dice.
Yeah, I remember seeing the weird shaped dice. I'm like, I don't know what's going on there.
Oh yeah, 20-sided, 100-sided, yeah, all sorts.
Yeah.
Yes, I do have a 60-sided die now.
Enjoyed. Yeah. But it was a good time of my life. I thought I was a dungeon master. I was, all sorts, elves, magicians. I didn't have to worry about the real world at all. It was great.
So does that mean when Lord of the Rings came out, you dressed up to go to the premieres?
No. I'm older than that. I think I started playing D&D when in, I don't know, 79 or 80.
I'm assuming
1879.
Yes, he's 1879. That's right.
I'm just assuming you had certain outfits in the cupboard that you drag out now and then on special occasions.
Just after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. We didn't.
No.
This is not what it's supposed to be about. But that's. I mean, I do think that's cool, and I think that's what makes people interesting. It's not necessarily what they do for work, although it is. I mean, it's so interesting, the theme that, Lars, it seems to run through most of these conversations with different folks. It always comes back to security. I mean, and every time we talk to somebody, there's always a discussion about security. So I think that's sort of an observation.
Well, beyond securing my board games for my 2-year-old, I mean, you're right. It's I'm not a security expert in any stretch either, but you have to care about it. The risks of not caring about it are too great to just go, oh no, it's someone else's problem, or no, we won't be affected by anything. You have to.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards, right? There's no equilibrium, there's no standing still. And security is very much like that. If you don't update your computers, you don't patch stuff, if you don't, look at what's happening right now and kind of take it into account for whatever actions you have, well, you're just going to get caught. And it's just the world we live in, I think.
Adam, what's your website and blog? What's it called again?
Yeah, it's adamfowlerit.com because I'm not very creative with names.
And then you're also on Facebook as well, right? You have Facebook, and do you have a YouTube account or anything like that? Or
yeah, I mean, go to my blog. That's the main area. I've got a Facebook page, but that's generally a feed of what I do on my blog as well as Twitter. Twitter's the main other area I share things and hang out on. And
well, once you get on this show, we'll crash your site.
Oh yeah, both listeners going to go there straight away.
That's right.
well, if they, okay, if you know what the other listener's name is and their name is before yours, do it 2 days after the podcast, and then the other guy can do it on the first day.
Right on.
The other guy's name is Smars Plint, I think. Oh dear.
So
yeah.
now, we all my laughs are gone, Lars. It doesn't matter if you have a joke this week because I'm all laughed out.
It does matter. That's the thing. It actually does matter. It's.
I want to see if you can make Adam laugh, because I don't think you can do it.
That last joke I heard was pretty good.
Yeah, no, see, they're great jokes, and it is time for the joke of the week.
It's the joke of the week, so come along with me. I cannot promise it will be funny, but it's the joke of the week.
And it's actually bonus week, in case you didn't know, because I have a few jokes, because I found this definition of different types of viruses, which I thought was very interesting. So have you heard of an Arnold Schwarzenegger virus?
Have not.
I didn't think so.
No.
It terminates and stays resident. It'll be back. Have you heard of the Adam and Eve virus?
I have not.
No.
It takes a couple of bites out of your apple. Great, aren't they? Have you heard of the airline virus?
No.
You're actually you're in Dallas, but your data is actually in Singapore. What about the Freudian virus? Your computer becomes obsessed with marrying its own motherboard.
Oh, that's awful.
I know.
That's horrible.
It's a bit awful. What about the Star Trek virus? It invades your system in places where no virus has gone before. And I could keep going, but I think that'll do. So,
I like that one.
Not bad.
I thought it was good. Yeah. Are you supposed to laugh at him?
I was. You just couldn't hear me over, some other laughter.
You're one of the silent laughers.
So
what's up for you, Adam? Next, what do you got on your schedule?
Oh, I've got some articles to write that, due dates are looming, so I better get writing on those. Having a day job, that takes up most of my time, and coming home to spend time with the wife and son. That's most of my life at the moment, which is good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Can't really complain about that.
Not at all.
It's Joel normally gets puts in the basement. That's when he comes back from work.
You know what, Adam? You brought up the DevOps question, and I'm going to throw out a challenge to listeners. If someone can come up with a single sentence definition or 2-sentence definition and tweet it at Adam that is cogent and makes sense, we'd love to hear it because it's really interesting. It's a little like porn. Everybody knows it when they see it, right? But the definition may change based on the individual looking at it, right? No?
Maybe?
Maybe? Okay, well, I was reaching. Lars won't edit that out.
We did end up in the gutter. That's good. You didn't disappoint, Joel.
It's late. Come on, man.
Oh, no. It's not that late. Oh, very good. No, thanks, Adam. Is there anything you want to add here at the end of the show?
Oh, that's too much for me to handle. No, nothing at all.
No problem at all. Thanks very much, mate, for joining. We really appreciate it. It's been good.
No, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for the invite.
And on that note, I think I'm going to go get some ice cream. Bye, Joel.
Bye-bye.
thank you for listening in on another episode of The Dane and the Pain. We record across the Pacific, across hemispheres, and across time zones. You can find us on www.daneandthepain.com. Our Twitter handle is Dane_Pain, and we are The Dane and the Pain on YouTube and Facebook. We're also on your favorite podcast app, including iTunes, and please join our fan club by clicking the Register Now button on our website to know about upcoming shows and any free stuff we may have to share. See you next time on The Dane and the Pain.